Guess what we're talking about today? One thing that we do unconsciously a lot as human beings, where does the need to be liked come from? Or how does it show up in your life?
I've been a pleaser, a people pleaser of note for almost all of my life.
I want to please people.
Yes, you need to piss more people off.
It's brave to choose your happiness.
I'd rather be respected than be liked.
Unperformers, welcome back. We are on the next episode of Talking Bear, brought to you by the Unperforming Woman. My name is Tato Belang, and I'm with my partner,
Tavaksha Christopher.
And together we're welcoming you again into our space. Guess what we're talking about today? We're talking about unpleasing. You know that we do a lot of undoing here on Talking Bear. So a lot of us actually go around liking to please. I think one thing that we do unconsciously a lot as human beings is the need to be pleasing others. Where did that come from, Dee? Tell me about you. Do you think you've got that struggle in your life? Where does the need to be liked come from? Or how does it show up in your life?
Wow, Tato, this is something that speaks to my heart very, very closely. If I think about it, I almost want to split it into two pieces. There's a pleasing part, right? And there's the part that you need to be liked. I've been a pleaser, a people pleaser of note for almost all of my life, especially as a young child, as an adolescent, even in university to a certain extent. And I found myself when I moved into corporate, I know we talk a lot about corporate, I was actually given a KPI on my performance contract by the director I was reporting into, where he said, you need to piss more people off. And I was like, there's no way I can do this. Yeah. And, you know, being an HR practitioner is not always a very popular role, but we also get influenced by what the business wants. So again, the people pleaser. To be liked, that's a very interesting one. Because for me, it's not so much about being liked, but being recognized, having the affirmations. That's what has been important to me. And I think it is rooted very much in our childhood. We always say everything goes back to our childhood. And I'm sure the audience can relate to that as well, right? It's our upbringing, whether it is from early childhood, whether it's through, you know, the education system. But somehow we got tainted to not always voice how we are really feeling. And I feel that has played a big role in terms of trying to please everybody or trying to be liked. I'm way past that now, Tato.
I'm so happy to hear. And Dee, how you started off, and perhaps it's not so obvious to me. You made something so interesting that I never thought of. You said for you there's a difference between pleasing and you wanting to be liked by people. What does that actually look like? The difference, because I think it's so, there's a thin line between the two, and one can actually, we can use that interchangeably, that this one is a people pleaser, therefore they like to want to be liked.
Yes.
And you're saying there's a distinction between the two.
Well, let's think about it practically, right? We've heard the term, I haven't heard it in a while now. And while you were speaking, I was thinking, you know, when you talk about brown nosing, right? We're just trying to get somebody in our favor or winning those brownie points. There's that part, right, where you maybe want to be liked by doing that, or actually you may want to please. It's the other way around, actually. You may want to please individuals by always trying to win points, but you may not always be liked.
But is the intention in the process to be liked as well?
Could be. I mean, listen, I'm not one to brown nose, to be honest.
But you're saying the two are not necessarily related.
Yeah, I think you can't separate them.
They can be exclusively, mutually exclusive.
I think so. I don't know if it makes sense. It's one of those those topics that I think I'm struggling a little bit with.
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers. I think there's a lot of blurriness around it.
And I think what you mentioned is also true, that a lot of the challenges that we face as adults can be traced back to childhood.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I remember in primary school, I was bullied a lot. And the person that I am today, most people don't believe it, but I was actually bullied a lot in primary school. That I then stopped being who I am and I just went into my shell.
Sure.
Because it was like, this is what is accepted. I want to
Yes.
please people.
Yes.
I want to be accepted and I want to belong. So I'm not going to be this bold person who asks a lot of questions, who expresses herself fully, because it's not accepted. So there's a little, so now that we're talking about it, it's like, actually there was a little bit of pleasing in there. Because so I think what we are saying is, when you're operating outside of yourself for the sake of other people, it is trying to please other people.
No, I can, and listen, the whole bullying thing, it's a surprise to me as well. Because you are very assertive, and I'm sure even the audience, they've heard you, they've seen you, you come across as this bold individual. But it takes a lot, right, to get to that point. And I believe that, we grow from strength to strength. But Tata, what's quite interesting for me as well is this whole unpleasing. So do I not want to be popular? And sometimes, hitting someone with the truth, it may be that they're not going to like you, or they could actually respect you at a certain point. But that's I think, what we are looking at exploring. What I find in a lot of different environments, because I always go straight to corporate, and that's not always fair, because it happens in our daily life as well, right, is that we want to keep the peace. And by just saying, okay, I'm okay just to let this go, am I really pleasing the person? Are they going to respect me for it? And I know I'm bringing respect in quite a bit, because I'd rather be respected than be liked. And what I find, and I was just trying to just look at this train of thought, if you could just indulge me, right, is if we are in a certain situation and you have to actually give really, really hard feedback, but you want to sugarcoat it, right? Do you get the message across? Is that person going to take the hint? I don't think so. And it may actually make you a bit unpopular. But the other thing that I was thinking about while you were sharing your story about being bullied, Tato, is assertiveness. Sometimes if you can be a very quiet, assertive individual. You don't have to be arrogant and boisterous or any of that. And it's seen as weakness. And I remember, being told that, oh, I don't know if she's right for this job because she's not assertive enough. And I remember my leader saying to this individual who gave the feedback, but I've actually gone to her psychometrics and she's very assertive. It's just that she's a nice person.
So are we saying there's space for us to be assertive? Are we saying there's moments, there's need where we need to be assertive, and definitely there's where it's necessary, but we can do that without losing ourselves.
Yes, without pleasing everybody.
Pleasing everyone.
Yes.
But do you also want to, I mean, you mentioned the corporate, and we have to start there, right? And I think that's a lot of wounding that's there for many people, for many of our audiences out there can relate. And I think that's where it's a wounding place, just like what you say in the childhood holding space. So they're wanting to, I mean, it starts with the performance contract that you spoke about earlier. There's certain things that you need to tick box, right? And that directly links itself to your performance bonus at the end of the day. Your increase is dependent on that.
Yes.
So there's a certain level of pleasing
Yeah.
that will come into that. I want to please my boss. I want to please maybe my boss or the sponsor, because I want to. So everybody has got that little agenda in their head, and so that's where the pleasing comes in. When does it become unhealthy though? Because like you said, it's difficult to have difficult conversation or to push back, to challenge, because I want to please. I know this is
Yeah.
not right, but because I want something. So there's a certain level of an agenda that I have. But we know there's a point where it becomes unhealthy.
It does. And it starts to eat you up inside, right? And I'm sure the audience can relate to this as well, is, you know, that moment when you leave a conversation and you think, oh, I should have said this, I should have said that. And you feel it in the pit of your stomach, right? And you're like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I commit to this? I should have said no. But I just didn't want to displease that person, right? And again, it could have been something as simple as, oh, no. And I know we've spoken about this where we say that no is a complete sentence. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, you're an unlikable person, but it's about boundaries as well, right? And again, you ask the question around, when does it become unhealthy? When you're constantly, I'd say, taken for granted, emotionally abused in certain instances, because you're constantly that person that they're going to go to. And you're going to constantly say yes, yes, yes. So if there's a piece of work, and we've all done it, you know you don't have any more capacity, you don't have the bandwidth, and it's like, no, I'll do it. It's fine, because you don't want to upset anyone. And you spoke about the performance contracting, but at the same time, you can actually compromise. Okay, how important is this? I can take this on, but then you need to let go of something.
Something is going to give.
Absolutely.
And now when you say those people who are taking advantage of, I want to pose this question to the audience. What happens if you relate with what Dee just shared about, you know, taking advantage of? What happens within you when you know that I'm going beyond what I'm supposed to, right? I'm overexerting. I think we spoke about this word in the previous episode. But what happens inside of you when you know that you are being taken? Because I think you can see, I feel that people see, I mean, I've been in positions where I saw that people are taking advantage of me. Fortunately, because I work on myself, it's not something that I allow to go on and go on. But what happens within you, and how do you overcome that? How get to a point where you start to say no? And to push back and say, can we negotiate the timelines? Can we have can we look at it at another time? Or can we relook the priorities? Because like we say, something has got to give.
Yes.
And so when we give of ourselves, then it's also becoming unhealthy. Like we say.
No, absolutely, Tato. And I think, yes, it's through time. You don't want it to take too many years. You want to realize it quick enough. But what I find is that whatever you are doing, you just, whether it's doing a presentation or planning a party, you just feel, this is not my best. And you become disappointed in yourself, right? And what I find is that, and this is a great example actually, when I can illustrate it, is my daughter would say to me, you know, Mom, why do you have to prepare so many meals or so many different, a variety of meals at once? And I said, what do you mean? She says, when you cook one meal, so it could be a lamb curry. If you're just making a lamb curry and you just focus on that, it comes out unbelievable. But now you're trying to make a lamb curry and a chicken curry, and you are then grilling prawns or whatever. And she says, you're doing 3 different things at the same time. And then you are saying, oh, but this is burning and that's not right. And I took that lesson. And she was quite little when she shared that with me. And I thought, that's a very good point, because firstly, I don't believe in multitasking. I'm not a multitasker. People who talk about it, okay, great for them, but I'm not. I am not that person, because I feel that if I'm doing too many things, I'm not giving it my all. And when I want to do something, I want to give it my all. And when you find yourself in that moment, when you're clicking on send for a report or a presentation, and it's like, oh, I could have done better. You've let yourself down. That is when you realize it, Tato.
So Dee, let's go back to work, right? And we spoke earlier on about how at work it's a lot where the wounding starts, what happens. In what ways does pleasing happen usually? I mean, we spoke about the performance contract certainly influencing that. But what are the many ways as well, especially as you think about your early career when you started and you're still sort of naive, innocent, and you're excited as well coming into this thing. How does it often manifest itself?
That is such a good point, because I remember being in my first board meeting in my 20s, and it didn't matter who was there, whether it was the CEO or the CFO. I spoke my truth, and it wasn't about pleasing anybody at that point. It sounds a bit contradictory, in terms of how I started off, but when you are there, maybe it is a way to please,
Okay,
in
tell
a
me.
sense that I'm going to show who I am. I'm showing up. So people are going to think, wow, she's not afraid of anything.
Did you feel a dissonance though? Because that's why I want to test it. When you say maybe there is a little bit of pleasing because I wanted to show up, did you feel some dissonance internally?
At that point, when you're young, it's like, I can take on the world.
Yeah.
And even if you get criticism, you don't really take it to heart.
Dee, I admire you, and I'll tell you why. I have a completely different story.
Yes.
I had a different beginning where it was like, and I've always been this, girl. That's why you're saying it's difficult to believe that I was bullied. But when I started, for me, the workplace was just a mirage of, it was like a maze. And so it was completely overwhelming for me. So I first needed to make sense of this thing. So that's why I couldn't fully be, okay, I'm going to be bold. I needed to observe, but I also I was scared to make mistakes because I was so young. I was also so insecure. So because I'm insecure, I'm just going to be copy.
Yes.
And you copy. And remember, I want to please because I want to fit in. So for me, I was so insecure in that I remember one manager said, but Tato, what do you think? Because what I was saying is, no, they said I must do this, I must do this. And then he said, but what do you think? And all of a sudden it was like, oh, I'm allowed to have my view. Even if it might not be right. Because I think that's the thing. It's like, oh no, what if I'm wrong?
Yeah. No, I get you, Tato. And I feel that somehow, as much as I'm talking about this kind of 20-something going into the boardroom, that did go out quite quickly. It fizzled out. What happened? So again, through experiences within the work environment, the work context, there are individuals that are a lot more experienced than you, and they start to point out or criticize. And then I'm like, this is happening too often. And I started to lose the confidence, and I wouldn't be as vocal as I used to. So I'm by nature an introvert, right? I am the quieter person in the room. I don't believe that I must just speak for the sake of speaking, because I know a lot of people that will just take up all the airtime and they have nothing meaningful to say. So if I'm saying something, it's going to be something meaningful. But it wasn't even that, Tato. I just became very quiet.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, what I want us to explore, right? Nice segue to, do we see this happening where there's hierarchy, right? Where I'm pleasing my boss because he's my boss. He's somebody upper than me. He's going to be doing my performance review, or, natural respect because he's that person up there. Do we see it happening horizontally as well? Because there might be a lot of competition among the people. We know how competition can be unhealthy. And if I want to really be liked by my team, I'm going to go out and say, I'll help you on this project.
Yes.
I'll help you on this thing. I'll stand in for you in there. And I want us to get to what fuels this thing. Are there any fears that, we want to explore to see what might be the fear? What could people be fearing?
The harsh reality, Tato, is that sometimes people do throw you under the bus. Sometimes you throw yourself under the bus, and sometimes you may throw others under the bus not realizing it, or you could be intentional, right? Let's not even fool ourselves.
Manipulative people out there.
Yes. Well, yeah. I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and says, oh, I'm going to make Tato's life a living hell.
Dee, have you
think
lived?
so?
Have you been around? You would be.
Am I too naive?
But most people don't.
Most people don't. Okay, let me talk for myself. I don't wake up in the morning thinking, who am I going to just make really, really miserable today? But sometimes you find yourself in situations that are quite challenging, that are difficult. You have to speak your truth, and people don't like you for it, okay? And I'm not interested in pleasing anybody anymore. But back then, it was a mix. I never had an issue necessarily with my line leader, early days. It was more the peer group, because you asked that question.
Yes.
And it felt like, especially when you want to make your mark, you have this new energy, and you may have individuals that have been in the organization longer than you, much older than you. I mean, I'm sure you've been the youngest person
For the longest
time. I find myself to be the oldest person now in many instances, even with studies, right? And it's not nice. But I remember colleagues saying to me when I turned 40, finally, you're 40, you in your 30s forever. Said the same thing to my sister a few years ago, you're finally 40. But I find it at the peer group, you don't always work together.
Jesus,
You're
how sad.
competing against one another.
Yeah.
And it's brought out the worst in me as well. It brought out an ugly side because I am competitive. I'm not going to pretend. Competitive, but not with others, with myself.
I thought so.
But I think others see it as competition to them. Or they may feel that, oh, who does she think she is? She's like, the head girl. And I've even been told that. You're the head girl, or you're the teacher's pet, or the blue-eyed girl. And I thought, no, but that's not the intention. I just want to come in and give off my best.
Let's be realistic, right? The people-pleasing thing, or wanting to be liked, the undoing of that is not easy. It requires a lot of courage, as many topics we talk about on this podcast. It requires a lot of courage. I mean, Brené Bray says daring, daring greatly.
Yes.
Because you must be daring to go and say, I honestly don't agree, especially when there's hierarchy, especially when there's authority, especially where the language of, I don't want to, what do they say? This is a career limiting move. So I'd rather be safe, and I want to be because I want to secure my career. I don't want to I want to progress in my career.
Yeah.
So we acknowledge that it's not easy. What should people learn? What are the small things, that small steps, small everyday things, then people can start practicing to start undoing unpleasing?
Yes, yes.
How do we undo unpleasing? Small incremental steps every day.
So what I love to do is having that, I think you spoke about it, that accountability partner.
Okay.
In one of our previous segments, right? And having someone in the room, and we all have that person at work that we feel safe with, safer than the others, right? And I've always had that person in the room in many organizations, and I was that person's safe person as well. So we'd give each other feedback, almost like a bit of coaching.
Yeah.
And if we are in a meeting and we said certain things, or we responded in a certain way, or even if we want to test certain things, we'd use each other.
But Dee, you are self-aware. You're talking about, you are self-aware, you want to grow, and like you said, there are people who really, and like we're going to take it back to upbringing as well, where it's not safe to be wrong. It's not safe to speak up. It's not safe, it's not okay, it's not okay to challenge.
Yes.
Especially with authority. I'm going to give you an example. I had one manager in one of the organizations I worked with. I liked this guy because him and I had a nice vibe. And because I speak, he liked me, and I challenged him and he challenged me. So, but every time we did performance reviews, he would obviously give me feedback. We get from other teams at 360. But at the end, he would always give me an opportunity to also give him feedback. I really appreciated that. And then I had to say a lot of prayer inside because it was big feedback I was about to give him. But then I said to him, there's something that I really want you to think about it. And I think it's how you were raised. I don't know if it's how you grew up, but you have this inability to say no. And I don't know where it comes from. I don't know why. I suspect you think, because you're such a respectful man, I suspect it's because you think it's disrespectful to say no, especially to the people in authority.
Wow.
And I said the turn of that is it impacts us.
Yes.
People report it to you. Because every week you come with new work, and we have to execute on that work.
Yes.
So I said, please can you try and just let no? Maybe don't say the words no, but say, I have these things, so negotiate.
Yes.
So we've got these priorities at the moment. If we bring in this is going to give. Because you know Tato is going to tell you that without even thinking about it. You know I'll push back. So if you don't push back, you know Tato is not going to do it.
Yes.
Tato is going to say, okay, fine. But which one are you removing from my list? Sorry. And I think he appreciated that feedback.
Yes.
Because then he acknowledged that that's how he was raised. He acknowledged that because of his beliefs and his background in his feminist systems, one should not, but he understood where it was coming from.
Yes.
And I began to coach him in our journey.
Wow.
I began to coach him to recognize when it's happening. Because I attended a lot of meetings with him, I would give him feedback immediately, that accountability partner.
Yes.
So I think leaders out there, I want to encourage you to not be afraid of feedback from your subordinates, because there are a lot of shadows, you know, in the Enneagram language, you're talking about your shadow side, things that you might be. And can you see how something so positive can impact negatively? Like just you taking, it's not such a negative thing, but there's a shadow side to it. And when you are in a team, whether it's in a family or at work, the implication is it impacts not just you, but other people. So people pleasing is actually not necessarily a positive thing.
Tato, I think it's interesting that we always talk about work. And I think we were touching on some of the personal aspects, but I'm sure our audience would appreciate us going a little bit deeper around this unpleasing, right? And bringing it back home into our personal lives. Listen, it's very easy to talk about corporate, about career, and you were talking a lot about, you know, career limiting and if we're not saying the right thing. But when we go back to our home environments, sometimes we do things, we say things to keep the peace. What does this look like for you, Tato, in your home life to keep the peace?
Do you know my family is listening and watching this, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I am so blessed that my late parents, and I always say this, that I believe that I was not an easy child to raise. And I know for sure that my parents did not understand this girl. But one thing they did is they allowed me to be. So in my home, I've always felt safe to say what I didn't agree and to have my voice, to not please anyone. But we know that creeps up in so many ways, right? So my dad was hard on me on anything education. So my dad would I always say, my dad taught me the language English, right? We would sit with crossword puzzles, with a dictionary, and I needed to learn new words, increase my vocab. So in that department, I really was, I wanted to please my dad. I mean, I recently wrote my book. Even now, I'm like, my dad would be so proud of me, right?
Absolutely.
Because I wanted to please my dad. It's like, I can write, I can, you know, all those years when we're doing crossword puzzles, it was for him.
Yes.
Of course, this book means so much for a lot of people and the work that I do, but very much at the center of it is the work that my dad pushed me to it. So I think, and in a parent-children relationship, it's actually so murky, where as a parent, there's a lot of pleasing that I do for my son right now, but I think there's a lot of pleasing the other way around as well. And it becomes complicated. And I think that's a early holding environment where this pleasing thing even begins. And I'll tell you, before I became a parent, there's a lot of things that my child, I would never do this. My child,
We all said it.
my child will never be, it's phones. And all of these things that we say before we become parent, we judge other parents. Let me tell you, it will humble you.
Yes.
When this guy arrived, humbled.
Oh, wow.
So that's how it manifests for me with the story of my dad, and now seeing it with my son. And most of the time, I really don't like it.
Yeah.
With my son, because I'm like, and I always say, this guy is spoiled. I tell my parents, this guy is spoiled, right? And then, but I do it. I do it because it makes, when he's happy, I'm happy.
Yes.
It makes my son's happiness makes me extremely happy. So I need to literally learn to say, Tato, you're doing it. Boundaries, boundaries. Because then we know the opposite of it, right?
Yes.
If he doesn't know that there's certain things that he's not allowed to do, if he knows that at a certain time he needs to switch off the TV and go sleep,
Yes.
if he doesn't know that just because I want nuggets from McDonald's doesn't mean that I can get them now.
Yes. They don't know the hustle, right?
Yeah.
They don't.
So that's for me, that's my reality in my home setting. D for you?
So, I mean, my kids are young. They're not kids. They're young adults, but they'll always be kids.
Yeah.
Interestingly, because I know how much you love Ole. And I know that you want to put his happiness before yours. I was the same. I'm probably still the same. But when I was a single mom for quite some time, I would come home from work, being in corporate, and I'd ask Lukelen, what do you want for dinner? And he'll say, I want a lamb curry. Kiasha, what do you want? I want chicken curry. And I'd make both. Yeah, no, exactly. I'm a big problem. I'm very extra. And I recall one of my leaders in corporate said to me, you're creating a problem, especially for your son's future wife.
Yeah.
Because you're setting an expectation, right? And I'm thinking, but I'm being a typical Indian mom, right? And I realized that we're actually not doing our children any favors.
No, we are not.
The same with conflict, Tato. I'd love to hear your perspective on this, because we always talk about sibling rivalry, or like not wanting our children to be upset and throwing tantrums, and no matter how old they are.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how you manage conflict without trying to please, unplease. What does that look like for you? Because you feel like, if nobody likes conflict, firstly, right?
No, it's uncomfortable.
Because people's like, I have no issues with conflict. I'm like, you are lying.
It's uncomfortable.
Yes.
We can say that I can have a but it's uncomfortable.
Nobody likes it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, this is one thing that I'm not going to lie. To a large extent, especially with my family, I struggle with, sometimes. It's easier out there with other people, but not when it comes to my family. It's like I literally have to have 100 meetings in my head with myself and play out different scenarios on how this is going to play out. Okay, I'm going to say this. Okay, maybe I must position it like this. Then I must position. And I think it boils down to not wanting to hurt people.
Yes.
That's what it boils down to. I don't want to hurt this person. I'm conscious about, I really value my relationship with my sister.
Yes.
I value my relationships with my brothers. But at the COVID, like you said, in the pit of your belly, is this. And at the end of the day, I'm the one who's feeling that internal.
Yes.
I'm like, I really need to speak about this. And recently I've had that tough conversation with one of my siblings. I needed to have that tough conversation. There was a bit of conflict. I was deeply hurt. And they were hurt by me bringing it up.
Yeah.
But I love how our parents raised us. I consider myself really blessed that the foundation that my parents built for my siblings and I is so secure that even in these rifts, there's no way that I can spend a whole week or a month without talking to my siblings, because if we don't, it's because we are busy, right? Not because there's this tension that's so heavy that I don't want to talk to her anymore. You know how dare she does that. So it requires, so for me, it's important, for me, the dissonance it's more hectic than not talking about it.
Yes.
So I'd rather have the conflict right?
Yes.
And I always say that you can talk to a person about absolutely anything. You can bring up the issues. It is the manner, it is the how you do it
Yes.
that actually matters at the end of the day.
Wow, Tato. I could definitely take a lesson from your book. I've got a very, very different
Okay.
perspective. Not perspective. I'd say it's my experience, and also, like you've said, absolutely grateful for my parents, the grounding, the values, the principles. It's unfortunate that I've had to lose contact with a sibling to keep my peace. And if I tell you, second marriages are not for the faint-hearted. They're not for the faint-hearted. But you're also in a different space, right, in your life when you get married for a second time. Well, I am, where quite late in life, I'm married for a second time, and I never thought it would happen. And for me, being single for a long period of time, I had no boundaries. So everything was family first, which there's nothing wrong with. So I had my 2 kids, and it was always, with my mum, my dad, my brother, my sister. We'd always do things together. So every Christmas was in Durban. And I must be honest, when I was married for the first time, it was very challenging, Tato, because it became stressful. Holidays in Durban, I just dreaded it. And I would try like every excuse under the sun not to go. And it was never a holiday. And I always wanted to spend Christmas in my home in Joburg. Firstly, to avoid any stress, but also create some traditions with my kids.
Yeah.
So what I started to do was having Christmas in July. And you laughed, Tata, because I wasn't a Christian woman then, right?
Yeah.
Because we're like, okay, there's no such thing as a real Christmas in July. Okay, now I know better, and we don't do it anymore. But I also have Christmas in my own home. And I actually said to my kids, now that they, 23 and 25, if you want to spend Christmas like overseas or with your friends or girlfriend or boyfriend, please go for it. I never want you to feel that you have to be obligated just to spend it with me. And that was because I learned that lesson. And I love my parents to bits. My dad's late. I'd love to spend any opportunity with my mum. But it was reaching a point where it was too stressful. There's no peace. It was chaos, and it was conflict and arguments, and that I said, this is not for me. And it saddens me that I no longer have a relationship with the one sibling, but I also needed to put myself first.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and trusting us, with your story, with your reality. I don't think it's easy for a lot of people to come to that acceptance, that truth. As I said, it's brave to choose your happiness, and because I'm sure there's a lot of people. The Indian community is very similar to our community, where it's like, you're not talking to your sibling.
Yes.
When there's something happening, is where's Vaksha? Why is she not here? What's happening? Because it's expected.
It is.
Let's talk about these expectations, Dee, because I think these expectations is what bring people to just cling to this thing and feel obligated to perform certain duties and fulfill certain responsibilities because it is expected, right? And so I'm not allowed to just be, but I don't like it that way. I chose from last year that I'm going to spend Christmas here with my son.
Lovely.
And obviously it was a taboo. Tato, why are you going back to Joburg? What's happening? Tato, you've got someone in your life. I'm like, dude, guys, I just this time I want to spend Christmas with my son alone in Joburg.
Lovely.
And so it's those things where it's like, where do I feel? And I think so we grow up in the same house, and there's values that our parents raise us with, and we espouse and we lead us. But then as we grow up, we also develop our own set of values. Of course, there might be that foundation.
Yes.
So when we have to do this, That's where the tension really becomes. I have a story again when my parents were still alive, right? So my dad is a really, bless his soul. My dad is like rural man, rural to the core, right? Grew up in the rural, and when you do things in the villages, it's like you can just come into somebody's house. 6 o'clock, people used to talk in my house watching sugar. And my mom would be, Tato, you need to be up. We need to start cleaning at 6. I'm like, Mama, 6 in the morning. She said, no, when people come in, the house must be clean. So I was like, well, it's their fault. They come into our house at that time of the morning, you know? So it's those things.
Yes.
So I remember a tough conversation I had with my dad where they phoned me when they were leaving the Northern Cape in the morning to come to my house. Or when they were halfway, I don't think so, to come here for a few days to my house. And they're telling me when they're, oh, gee, I'm so upset. I was in my 20s. I was a loose canyon, obviously. I was doing my thing.
Yes.
And I'm like, yo. So that's what I did. Fine, they came. I was like, when I opened for them and stuff, we slept. The next morning, I woke up early. I made them big, nice breakfast, set the table. And as we were eating, I was like, can we please talk?
Oh dear.
Let's talk. So I was like, no. So I started by saying, Daddy, you know how much I respect you, right? And I said, I've got my own life here. I've got my own stuff going on here. I don't want you to walk into anything that will disrespect you. So that's why it's important that we do things differently here, right? I told you,
very
we
different.
do things differently
Very
here.
different.
So I appreciate it. And you know, my dad was understanding man, and he had built that relationship with us. And he said, "Yo, Tatu, I'm so sorry. I just did my own things like we do." And I said, "But I'm mostly disappointed in you." And I'm pointing to my sister. I'm mostly disappointed in you because you know better. You should know better.
Yes.
But it has to start with the way you have to be daring. But can you see how respectful I still was to my dad, but still had to have that honest conversation?
Exactly.
And that's what I'm encouraging people to do is the timing is important, the environment is important, your choice of words is important, the tone is important,
Absolutely.
the manner in which, but by all means, please raise the issue.
You never want to hurt your parents, right? They say never ever bring tears to your mom's eyes or your dad's. And I think those are the values that we grew up with. And exactly what you're saying is, yes, you could keep the peace, but at what expense, right? Because you are begrudgingly now thinking, oh, why are they so annoying and they're coming to my house? And I've got these bottles of wine on the counter. I know you don't, Tatu, but I was that person. And what are they going to say? But you were bold, you were courageous to say, Daddy, and in a respectful way, this is how I'm feeling. And most of us try to avoid the conflict. So yes, I could be one of those people where the aunties and uncles and grannies are like, sure, what is wrong with her? She thinks that, she's better than everyone. She's not speaking to so-and-so and whatever. But you also have to protect your peace. And unfortunately, sometimes that conflict is just beyond another level. But where possible, you do want to try and, well, they say life is short. They say life is short, but do I really want to be unhappy for the next 20 years? So you have to find that balance.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know my story as well, Tato. Even overcompensating with my kids and with my daughter, we haven't spoken in a very long time. It's only recently that I started speaking to her again because I had not set the boundaries. And I opened myself up to all of this. And at the end of the day, I want my children to live good lives, and be good people. And sometimes you have to go to the extreme to teach lessons. But if you catch it early enough, and by us sharing these stories with our audience about
Our reality,
right? And we don't have to always be liked. Approval. Wow. Oh, I need to take a breath.
Me too. Like just approved. Boom. Have you seen that
Exactly,
stuff?
right?
Approved.
Absolutely. And I think we owe it to our audience, Tato, to talk a bit about seeking approval. And we find ourselves in a position when we are seeking approval, compromising on ourselves.
That's a big cost, wouldn't you
And a
say?
huge cost.
I mean,
What does it cost you, Tato?
I just think about that stamp that I said,
Yes.
cost,
Yes.
right? Approved.
Yes.
So approved for me, it already says there are conditions.
Yes. Wow, I love that.
So I'm already performing.
Yes.
Because there are conditions that I need to meet, whether it's aligned with me or not.
Yes.
So I'm thinking of costing my voice and being silenced, and it's taking me back again to when I was bullied. But also in corporate, I mean, there was a time, Dee, and I say this with tears in my eyes. There was a time in corporate where I truly believed that I was deaf.
Sure. Tato.
That I was deaf because of this. I'm not good enough. Like that approval, it was never there. You know, whether it came in a form of I see you, I value you, I recognize your contribution, or where performance management, or where the space for my voice to be heard, for just my voice to be heard. So that approval was not there. So the cost of it is silencing my voice. Because you start believing that I started believing that I'm not good enough.
Wow.
That I don't have anything. I was like, do I really belong here? Like, I asked myself, who am I fooling? I went to this school in the Bundus where my dad taught me. You know when I tell people that I was taught English, Gaswan? Does that resonate with? I'm sure somebody resonate. I was taught English Gaswan.
Wow.
You know, in primary school.
Yes.
And because my dad was just passionate about the Queen's language for some reason, he was an English teacher as well. That's how I learned, increased my vocab, and that what built it. But then I got to the system called corporate, and my voice was silenced, and I was called to perform. I went back to, well, who am I fooling? Really, who am I fooling? I don't belong here. This place is, I didn't go to Material Soul School. I can't speak this eloquent English, you know. I'm still have to translate a lot of things from Setswana to English in my head before I can say it. It's true. And so you go through all of that internally alone, and it eats you up.
Yeah.
It breaks you until it actually becomes true story. Then I don't perform.
Yes. Oh, Tato, no, thank you for sharing that. And I really want to commend you because it takes courage to talk about bullying, whether it was in the school setup or corporate. It's just not nice, right? Because you lose yourself. And as you were talking about, you start questioning your competence. And that's really, really unfair because it does cost you your confidence, your self-esteem.
It does.
And then you're kind of letting everybody else's opinion define who you are. Am I right?
True.
Yeah.
So that identity thing becomes, there's a dissonance in who you are versus what people perceive you or expect you to do, to be.
Yes.
So there's this, you know, discord between the two. It's like, okay, I'm going to step out to be this person out there, but you know that's not who you are.
Exactly.
And so that's why I love interventions or tools like coaching.
Yes.
Right? Because coaching really is a place where coaches, the assumption that we come in with coaching is that you are fully functional and that you are enough. And that there's so much potential that you have.
Wow.
So because of that assumption that we come with it in a coaching session, it's such a beautiful tool that helps people who are stuck in that narrative. And you and I had a casual conversation off camera earlier where we said, it started there. And I said, most of us started there where we're not confident and stuff. But then we said, sadly, there are people that carry that narrative until they retire. And that person is literally a shadow of themselves.
Yes. How do we help them, Tato? When I say help, it's not like, okay, now we need to come up with a 101, but we have the luxury of access to each other, coaches. What about individuals out there who are struggling with these types of issues?
Sure, dear.
I know it's tricky.
It's tricky, but I want to start with speaking to anyone who is in a place of leadership, and leadership is not a title or a role. Just if you have people that you influence in your circle, it starts, I want to talk to this group of people first. And the reason why is because that manager that I spoke about, that I said allowed me to give him feedback, that guy absolutely believed in me. I thrived under that guy's leadership. So the opposite of you being allowed to be and given autonomy and being trusted is that you thrive. Opposite to what I said earlier, where I stopped performing because I believed I was not enough. So when I speak to these people who have influence in your family, in your group of colleagues at work, even if you're on the same level, but if you have influence over them, see them. See them, value them, encourage them, unleash that strength, that potential in them. Because sometimes it requires just one person to see you. To say, but Tato, do you know that you're actually a good speaker? Me? With such a squeaky voice, like, yeah. That's the feedback that I kept on hearing from people who see me. I said, Tato, you know, when you talk, you've got such a commanding voice. When you talk, people want to listen. People want to hear what you say. I didn't believe it for years, until those people started sharing it with me.
Wow.
So that's why I wanted to start with the first group people first. If you see somebody you see something special in them, speak to them, tell them, give them that feedback. It goes a long way. And genuinely do so.
That's one of the first things that I noticed, and it was like wowed me, Tato, was the way you facilitate and the way you speak with that authority. I love it. And your command of the English language,
Thank you.
Did you hear that little? And then the thank you.
No, man, it took me a long time to believe that.
Yeah.
I'm there now, don't worry.
But how often, I'm like, your hair looks absolutely stunning, right?
And then I just brush it off.
Oh yeah, your hair also looks nice. Wow, it's just thank you.
Yeah, that's an important one. G. We do that.
Yeah.
Is it because we're not allowed to? You're making me think hard. You're making me think hard because I think there's the thing of being humble because I'm very conscious of not being arrogant. Because I really can't stand arrogant people. I cannot. So I don't like being too much. I don't like taking. So yes, it's nice. Like, oh, I did this well. I tell that to myself in the mirror. I'm like, hey girl, you rocked it, right? I can be arrogant to myself and with myself.
Hide yourself in the mirror.
Exactly. So, but there's that. But then there's, but anybody can do it type
this
of
whole
thing.
thing. Someone compliments you on your dress.
Yeah.
Oh, this whole thing.
Yeah.
I've had it for 20 years. You don't need to tell him the whole story. It's like,
just take it.
Take it. Accept it.
Accept it. So maybe we're now addressing the other group of people, right? We were addressing those influencers, but now we're talking to those people who genuinely don't have the self-confidence, who their voice have been silenced, who they've been told whatever, and they've believed that they're not good enough.
Yes.
Like you said, how can we help them come out of that and step into who they're meant to be? I would say, if you feel safe, reach out to a person that you look up to. Somebody that has something that you don't know. So for example, I had this person who, like you said, I facilitate well. I had to say, I really like how you facilitate. I want to learn from you. And I want to do it so well like you. And so I felt safe with that person and they took me under their wing. So I know it requires a little bit of boldness, but there's different ways you can do it. You can send a message if you feel. You can just ask for a coffee. You can send via somebody.
Yes.
But by all means, take that first step and brave it.
Absolutely.
For you, any nuggets?
Sure.
From you for this other group of people?
And I think, I'm still learning. I'm still learning as I'm going along. I can't say that I have all the answers. But at the same time, I think self-awareness is right. And I do find myself catching myself quick enough to say, okay, what are you doing here? Think about things differently. And also having that person who you can look to. And I know you have very, very straight talk with me as well. And it is about feeling safe in your own skin, because what's the worst thing that can happen, if you say no to somebody, or if you actually don't care for their approval or anything of that sort? It's okay. What is it going to cost?
What is it gonna cost? Oh.
Tato, what a conversation around unpleasing. I must say, it felt like a bit of a slow start, and I'm sure our audience would pick up on that. It's because it's something that really hits quite deep, right? And I think it sometimes brings about some PTSD. And what I also find, Tato, is, and as we kind of drawing to a close, is, are we really being true to ourselves? Are we being honest? Or are we just trying to please individuals and compromise on our truth? So where does honesty play in all of this?
Yeah.
As we're trying to unplease.
Yo, Dee, you ask a lot of questions, difficult questions. But I think these are important questions, Dee. Let's ask you, the audience. Where do you see yourself in this conversation? Where do you place yourself? Where do you see yourself really having that internal dissonance where you say that I'm actually doing this to please this person, but I actually don't want to do this. It's not aligned to me. So I want you to ponder on this question. Maybe start this week. Let's start slowly. Start this week just asking yourself, where am I doing things to be liked versus something that fundamentally is about me? So I'm going to give maybe 1 or 2 points. Maybe dare yourself this week, right? This is #daring. Dare yourself this week to say no without any justifications. Because sometimes when we say no, it's like, yeah, I can't make it. Let's just say no, I won't make it. And see how that feels. It will feel difficult at the beginning, guilt will creep in, but when you practice it and you say it with love, you won't have to justify it anymore. Also, maybe something that you could do is just don't show up for something that you don't want to go to, and don't over-explain. I think we over-explain a lot. If you really don't have the capacity, because remember we spoke about emotional burnout in the previous season, in the previous episode. Burnout is because we force ourselves to do things. I was just on a coaching session with somebody else and I said, I want you for this coming 2 weeks, work on this. You can't be everything to everyone. So those are my daring challenges to you, our unperformers out there. And Dee, I think it's good to wrap it up here today.
Yes.
It has been absolutely amazing chatting to you, bringing our coffee sessions to our audiences. What do you think?
I think it's been amazing. And we spoke about disappointment. It's going to happen when you are unpleasing. Don't disappoint yourself.
Go out there. Thank you, our audience. Please don't disappoint yourself. Go out there and unperform. Until next time. Ciao, ciao.